What is going on, everybody? And in this video, we are giving you a state of the market and stock picks for April 7th, 2022. So if it sounds like something you're interested in to be up to date each and every day, plus the weekly updates that get you prepared for the week ahead, consider subscribing. And we're going to roll straight into some state of the markets. Now, today we had the one event that I essentially mapped out for the whole week, which was the FOMC meeting notes. Now, if you don't know what those are essentially the details of the meeting on the last FOMC meeting, essentially where Powell and the rest of the Federal Reserve came to a conclusion that a 25-point basis move would be made. Bond purchases would continue to be bought. Now, coming into today, I was expecting volatility. I was expecting a pullback. It was inevitable, especially after yesterday. You had a lot of different Fed members talking. We're going to have Fed members talking throughout the week as well. But yesterday, they started talking about really hammering down to the fact that asset purchasing needs to stop and can stop at any moment. But what a lot of people tend to forget is that this is something that's already been advertised. There is no new news going on here, but with the Fed pushing it back out into the media, a lot of people are concerned. Essentially, this is why we ripped. We've had this massive run coming into the past couple of days since the last FOMC meeting, which is essentially right here. We've ripped straight up since that meeting, simply because of the fact that we came in lower than expected with 25-point basis move, and we continue to buy bonds. Now, the only reason we're continuing to buy bonds is because of the fact that there is a war going on, and that was kind of reiterated today in the notes that this is why that wasn't taken away, because of the fact that there is still fear out there. There's still fear of people running to the banks and trying to withdraw all their money at one time because of a war. And this is why the market is so sensitive to any kind of new news related to war or anything else like that. So that being said, today coming in, what we got from the report was essentially just that they are going to pull bond buying at some point. Now, there's different ways they can approach this. Powell has talked about this before. This is no new news. Volatility was expected today. Just the fact that, yes, they've already made it well aware. They've televised this many times before that they're going to stop bond purchasing when necessary. But we have to remember that if there is fear, especially a war, they are not going to just stop, especially coming out of a pandemic. You're trying to get things off to a strong start. You can't just remove that with the fear of a new element into the market. So being said, I think the bond purchases, now this is purely my opinion, but I think the purchasing of bonds will continue to be bought until the war is gone. Once that is gone, then I think at that point, then they can make a change. But that's not stopping the Fed from raising multiple hikes. I know the Fed futures are up to like 100 basis points at this point. There's a lot going on with that. Again, the market is used to that stuff. The market's not really concerned about that anymore. Sticker shock is gone. We are primarily concerned about where the asset buying stops. And again, something reiterated today, which kind of freaked the market out. The market kind of had a fit because of that fact that they're going to stop as soon as I think the war stops. I think not long after that, you'll find the Fed are going to turn around and stop bond buying. Again, they can still take different actions on some different assets to try to help alleviate that, but ultimately understand that that is our backstop for our financial system, and it has to essentially remain intact for this system that we currently have in place. Also, a big reason why I believe crypto is going to have a big phenomenal year and potentially even into next year, and has a new base at these higher levels because of this, because of the inflation, because of the pandemic, because of the war, just how our current situation is playing out. So where does that leave us? Something I've talked about before also as well. We have earnings coming up. Now we have earnings coming up, and we typically dip before earnings. This is a normal move that happens. We've had a parabolic move. We are just dipping. We're not going to crash, flash crash. You got a lot of people talking about a flash crash. We go up, and everybody's let's all be bulls, and then all of a sudden we pull back a little bit, and people are talking about a flash crash. Things are perfectly okay. There is nothing new in the system. The system is perfectly okay with what is going on, but what is concerning, if that backstop gets removed, you're going to get more volatility because, again, the backstop helps with tech. The backstop helps with allowing tech to continue to grow, allow growth to continue. That backstop is removed, and you're kind of leaving it up to a strong economy, and that is where we are. We haven't really been tested since the beginning of the pandemic. So that is the concerning, and that's what the market's kind of concerned, that if that backstop is removed, are we going to be okay? Are we going to be strong enough to support ourselves, or are we going into recession? And so that's kind of what we're looking at there. And so that's kind of what the market is wary about. But again, the war doesn't look like it's ending anytime soon. So I think in the foreseeable future, it's a very still bullish move, at least until earnings. Yes, we're going to continue. We might continue to pull back, but ultimately, I think it's just a pullback, getting ready for earnings. It's not no crash, not no correction. We've had a correction. We have to remember that. But when that time comes that the war ends, you can definitely expect that the Fed is going to remove the bond purchasing completely at 100%. Again, they would have done that at the last meeting hadn't there been a war. So that is your state of the market. It's a lot of information, I know. You can always replay it if you need to. But nonetheless, and a lot of it is my opinion. Like I've always said, you always need to come up with your own thesis and what's going on in the market. That is important. You need to know current events. You need to know what's going on, what's controlling the market. The Fed isn't always controlling the market, but in situations like we're currently in, you have to remember that certain things have more weight at certain times, and it just adjustable at all times. The FOMC has a lot of weight right now. Typically, it really doesn't. You would have talked about the FOMC 2 or 3 years ago. People wouldn't have cared. People didn't even care what it was about. But considering what has been going on, considering about inflation, this is where they have to step up. This is where what they say matters. This is where they hold a lot of weight. And this is where you have to understand that certain things and certain events will hold certain weight at certain times. So being said, we can take a look at Bitcoin real quick. Bitcoin's actually fallen off a little bit here. It's still not concerning. It's still a higher low. Like I said, we could still tag around that 4,100 mark or 41K mark. And I think we can still continue up. Again, I think with the concerns today, that backstop, of course, people are going to get in a little bit of a panic and pull back. But I think this is completely normal. We filled the gap. We got getting another second leg down here. So I'm kind of watching that 4,100 mark. We could very well revisit the 38K mark. That's something that's perfectly fine. But I think this 38K around, even down here, we tagged 34. I think 32 might even be this red zone down here, roughly around that 32K, I think is our new base, considering with mass adoption and everything. It's not saying we can't go back down. This is also not saying that your big name companies like your Teslas and Amazon can't go to zero, right? All these things can certainly happen. There's also been a lot of reports coming out that the US is trying to be #1 in crypto. So to think that Bitcoin is going to go back down to zero, I think you got another thing coming, because it is just the technology in itself could benefit a lot of people. And there's some people that are already early jumping on that train. Some people are hesitant because they're waiting on the Fed. So it really just depends on the person. So going into tomorrow, I think the big one I'm watching, like always, is Tesla. I was really watching this level here today. I was watching that 1K mark. It did not want to come down, but it held the 200 on the hourly. Normally, you get a really big bounce out of this, and so I'm trying to capitalize on this. I'm actually swinging some Tesla overnight for that. Because of this. This is one thing I've always talked about. When you are playing Tesla and Tesla sells for 2 days straight like this, you're going to get a big bounce out of Tesla. Because Tesla's always been a safe haven. It did come out today too that Elon Musk sold shares of Tesla to buy Twitter. So you did get some selling, but it held again still very well at the 1040 mark. So we're going to have to see how this plays out tomorrow, but kind of looking for that bounce tomorrow. If we remain flat tomorrow and the market remains flat, I expect us to start getting some bullish action back to the upside. So Tesla, I'm really trying to watch this 1033 mark tomorrow. As long as we remain above again at 200, I think this will have a good bounce. I think we can get at least back to the 110 mark. The 110 mark, I think, would work going into. So going into tomorrow, I'm kind of really watching this level here, the 1036. As long as it holds that, I'm very bullish in Tesla going into earnings. They always do very well. They still produce good numbers, even though production numbers are down. Looking at that, but I think we can make another strong move up to that 1100 mark going in. If we get any kind of bounce, I do kind of expect Tesla to play this bigger range going into earnings. Do I see it blasting off to 1200? It could be a possibility if they get any positive news. If the market in general gets positive news, it very well could happen. But again, one of the biggest things I look at is you got Tesla selling 2 days straight with no big bounces. And I think tomorrow might be that day where we really bounce. If that news, the FOMC meeting notes were really that bad, this is also why I took a position. I think we would have sold off more. I was kind of looking for that second leg down, but we're holding. If we hold flat overnight, that's a very bullish sign in my mind. So I'm looking at that tomorrow. UPST, I'm really watching this level. It's under the 200 weekly, so kind of watching that 98 mark, 98.50 mark. If we can break above that tomorrow, I want to try to take another position on this for a longer term swing on this. But we're going to have to see. I think we're going to get a rotation where a lot of safe havens might get a lot more volume tomorrow, and some of the other ones might sell off a little bit just because of what was reiterated today. Again, the Fed are kind of throwing out a lot of massive numbers out there to kind of scare everybody. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But watching those levels, I think if we can break above there, you do have some resistance here on the 20 and the 50, but ultimately, I think you could make your way back to 107 pretty easily from that point. Shop is another big one I want to watch. This is a very key level. I don't really want to take a position here at the 642 mark. If it's up at the 675 mark and the market starts to sell, this will definitely be one of the first ones I want to jump into is shop for the short side if the market does decide to sell. The options are priced very good on this one, so I do like shop to the downside if we start selling. Otherwise, I'll wait for it to come down to get back in the call side for tomorrow. Google, another big one, it broke down. Again, you got 2 straight days of pure selling. Another big one that could flip pretty quick and start pushing up. But now you're starting to get in a lot of old support. We buttered a lot of support, so now you're going to start having resistance on the way back up. We might get a nice pop into resistance and then continue to sell off. Again, it's all about how the market's going to digest the information it got today. This is why I like Tesla, though, because if it does flip, Tesla will be one of the number one ones pushing. So kind of watching that tomorrow. Chips are something really interesting. They're continuing to sell. Again, there's a lot more sanctions being placed. But that also being said, they're also doing really well. I know gaming for AMD was bad. And so NVIDIA is kind of playing catch up on that. And again, you're getting a lot of these great stocks that are going 2 straight days of red. And again, we're going to get some sort of bounce, whether that's tomorrow morning or whether that's Friday. I think we're going to get some sort of relief bounce. It's going to be pretty parabolic. Again, considering that we've essentially just sold 2 straight days. So that's what I'm really kind of watching. Chips, not my favorite. I'd rather take either a Tesla or an Apple. We can even look at Apple. Apple really hasn't sold. It sold off this morning. It's holding that 170 mark really well. If it continues to hold that 170 mark, I think we'll still be good. It's a very bullish sign in my mind. Getting 2 solid days of selling. We try to make a comeback towards the end of the day. Essentially, that's when we got the FOMC notes, and then we sold off. So if this is holding again tomorrow, could potentially be another good move. Another good scalp tomorrow. So just kind of watch the zone here around this 170 mark. If it holds the 170 mark, you could get a nice bounce back up to the 172 mark. So it might be one I might watch for a scalp tomorrow, as long as it holds. Again, 2 days pure selling, trying to look for some sort of relief bounce in there. Just a general market sentiment for banks. The bank's been selling pretty heavy. Again, the 15th, we'll start getting some earnings on these. So we'll have to see how they do. If they do really well, that could be a very bullish sign as well. I think that will help stabilize the market and then continue for the market to push up to all-time highs. I do think we're close to all-time highs soon with the market. Again, there's no new news unless something changes. I think the whole this whole idea with rates and stuff is nothing new. This whole idea with the backstop being removed, I think, is more of a threat to kind of help drive down the market because it was getting a little too parabolic. Sometimes we do get those. And I think that, again, the market's not going to make any sense. And period, like the world can be ending and the market will continue to push up. So if you think it's going to make sense one day, it's not going to make sense. You play the move, you see what events are going on. And if it's not new news, then it really does not matter. You'll get a lot of news. It's a lot of the same recycled news over and over and over. And sometimes the market will take it as new news like today, even though it's been advertised multiple different times through the Fed. Just be aware that it does happen. And sometimes the market, it gets sensitive. And that's why I talk about why the market throws a fit, because it'll start getting a lot of whipsaw, like it's new news, but it hasn't been. It's been advertised this whole time. So that's why it's good to be up to date on what's going on with the current market state. But that's pretty much what I got. Keeping it very simple. I know this video isn't short, but there was a lot of information that kind of came out today. Again, this was one of the most important days of this week. We're still looking to earnings. Still looking at the Fed in May, but I don't think it's gonna. Again, I don't think it's going to do much unless they remove the backstop. Then we might get a little bit more of a pullback. But again, I'm still very bullish in the market going forward. April is a very bullish month. Just waiting on earnings, so be mindful of that. Again, we've priced a lot in. If anybody who says, well, we still need to price it in, I don't believe that's the case. I think the market was pricing in that in the beginning of the year. I think that's why we didn't sell into close. We kind of held and started pushing up somewhat. So I think that's what you can take from what came out of today. So if you've made it this far, I appreciate you. Go ahead and drop a like. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.